Hello and welcome to this September 3rd already edition of the Cross Project Council meeting. Um, so let's start today with any announcements. Wow, hearing no announcements, then I think we can look at the agenda as soon as I can actually get it to work on my end. Here we go. Do we have any board meeting updates? Was there anything that needed to be brought back from the board to the CPC? I don't think so. If I remember well, the last board session was pretty light on CPC related topics, so I don't think there are any updates on that end. Joe, Robin,
Our
Jordan.
next board meeting is Friday, September 27th. So
All right. Staff updates on legal info. Any news on that end?
Guess not. Trying to load it up here too.
So I'll just mention that the pseudo anonymity for the CLA that is in progress. I'm just working with our legal team on drafting new CLA agreements. So it's just in progress.
All right. Anything else here before we dive into the issues? It sounds like we only have 9 issues left, which I'm sort of surprised about.
You
But
say
yeah.
9 issues left, as if we get these done and our work is done.
Isn't this how it works?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
All right, so let's get started in that case. So the first issue Emily brought up, it's about updating the CLAs. So apparently the Apache Foundation updated their CLAs. That is the reference CLA that we use here. If that's the case, that seems like reasonable to at least look into. Is this something that we should directly take to the board? Is it something that we want legal advice on before taking it to the board? What's the status of this?
I think just having our legal team provide updates would probably be adequate. You know, when we had a member council meeting way back about 3 or 4 years ago when we switched to a CCLA and ICLA and everyone was set with that. But this seems pretty straightforward. So let me run it by Andy first and we'll see how complicated it could be.
I added the label, the legal label.
Add a legal. Chris?
Emily refers to those as being upstream. Is that an accurate statement, or I'm having trouble connecting the dots?
I mean, it's not code, so
Well, but the implication being that the OpenJS Foundation adopted the Apache contributor license. Is that what happened?
Yeah, because those are designed to match with the Apache license. And my understanding is those are the CLAs of the Apache Foundation.
Yeah, and here's the issue that talks about that from 2020.
Oh, okay. That is good context. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm putting a note in the issue that we are checking this was OpenJS legal. And we'll see what that takes us, right?
Right.
Okay. Sorry. And then the next topic is, the collab space, sustainability collab space. That's 1357. Ulysses was driving this and isn't here today. I think the next steps here were to move forward with this and to start the process for creating a space. And I think we're just essentially waiting on this at this point, right? So this looks like no news today.
No update. We have a list of things we could help them with, kind of like a placeholder charter, getting things on schedule, opening repos, things like that. So we do have a checklist, I believe, that we had linked to last time or opened up. Michael might have done that. I don't know if that was linked in the issue.
Do you mean the links to the guide, to the, like, the process?
Yeah, the steps to open.
I see Toby added it in.
Okay.
I had indeed, yes.
Mhm.
So we check in a couple of weeks, see if this needs any support.
Yeah, I'll drop him a note right now, see what I can do to
All
help
right,
him.
cool.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm just gonna write that there. Any help needed moving this forward? All right. 1355. This was on Ben. So this is including package registries in the continuity policy. And there was an action item on Ben to open a PR. I'm assuming you don't have an update on this today.
It's on my list. I was on PTO last week, which is
Yeah. I am not suggesting that you should be having an update. I am just wondering if we keep it was a cross-project cancel agenda right now, if we instead add a I don't know, waiting on staff update and remove the CPC agenda, do both. What do people want to do?
I'm happy
I
to
would just,
remove the tag, and when I add a PR or something for discussion, we can add it back. That works for folks.
All right. If I can actually manage this. Fix this later. Oh, what's the status of the node? So that's the 1347 COC review for the node Discord server. What's the status of this? And do we have more information and can we sort of move this forward or help Claudio in any way? Or
so that there was an answer. So, I think you posted in saying like, hey, why not use the foundation COC? And there was an answer by one of the moderators from the Discord server. So I think it's probably back to the CPC / somebody here to read through the response and respond to, yeah, okay, then the changes are fine, or not quite convinced.
I think there were two questions here, looking at the notes from the last CPC call. So that's that comment here. We're asking for a rationale for not using the foundation COC, which this whole thing seems to tie around the question of whether or not this is an official um OpenJS server or not. Overall, Chris?
I mean, I think last time, it's not why I raised my hand, but just a quick response to that. Last time we discussed this, it was that it was official with the asterisk that they've delegated, the node powers that be have delegated the responsibility officially to this other team, right? But I raised my hand because I saw the response given and, the explanation of the changes that were made. And frankly, I just don't think they're substantive enough to warrant the using the different one. Just use the same one. There's a little bit, oh, we changed this term. Oh, there's this like a bit about the appeal. That was like kind of the most significant thing. But even then, it just seems like it's just more complicated and more moving parts to worry about to have the different one. And I don't find it compelling.
I mean, sorry, Paula.
I was interested in it. It did say that we're ultimately accountable to the foundation. So it does sound like they do recognize that if something really goes awry in their own COC escalation, that it would come up. So is that a terrible thing? I also agree with Chris that it doesn't look substantially different. But if the node team wants to have that kind of control as long as they're accountable to the foundation, is there a harm in that? I'm not sure.
Chris.
Yeah, I was just those remarks were just reminding me that we had something I think we briefly talked about last time, which was they could still keep our code of conduct as is, but they could have a separate moderation policy that talks about those particulars where they've got, here's how you appeal a ban, or here's what the Discord, timeout stuff is. And then you can leave the COC intact and just keep that simple. And then you have your moderation policy, which they're 100% responsible for. And that still is, the escalation is still the code of conduct, but then you just separate those concerns. And I think it's just easier for all of this.
All right, so does it seem like the answer here would be, please use the Foundation's code of conduct verbatim, and if you need to be more specific about certain sort of like Discord specific things, do so in the specific moderation policy? I mean, yes?
I think I'd be careful to just put that into email, like sorry, I meant into the issue in terms of like, it can come across very much as like, no, just use the one we told you to use, right? And I think that can be the answer, but I would suggest like somebody actually getting together and talking with them and saying, okay, well, we understand these things, and possibly run it by the TSC. If like the OpenJS is going to tell not the node TSC that they can't use something different, but something that the node TSC is potentially trying to bring this as a partner, or no. I'm just thinking like it's very easy to read things in an issue as very like authoritative, or you know what I mean, like stronger than we'd want it to come across, versus like getting together and saying, well, like, hey, here's why we really try and keep them consistent. And then you could hear if they understand that, and then you can say, and like they can say, well, like, hey, these things are really important to me, right? And we can get a sense of like, if they don't care, yes. If they really, really care, just that's my suggestion. We handle it more at least talk to them before we go back with that answer.
So before I go to Chris, I just want to say I love this, but like someone has to do it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I also, I don't think it's necessarily a foregone conclusion that it's impossible to express that in writing, but it is, you do have to be more careful about it. That's certainly true. But I think like what we want to emphasize here is yeah, we don't want to be like, we're just directing you to do this and thanks very much, have a nice day. It's more like the rationale here is that we're trying to make their lives easier and also trying to give them actually some autonomy. So like here you are responsible for your moderation policy and keep your stuff there, and you have the authority and delegation of authority to do that. And you don't have to worry about coming to us to review, a modified code of conduct.
And I even
Joe?
wonder, yeah, I even wonder, is this something that the CPC needs to go to the TSC meeting to talk through, or is this something that the TSC should be, delegated this to? I mean, I try to attend the TSC meetings anyway, so maybe that's a moot point, but the Node.js TSC is Node.js TSC is trying to make this happen, so that would make sense to me. Anyway, I can, I can try to attend the next TSC and be there for it regardless.
Yeah, like I think
So-
because like so Claudio is kind of like trying to been moving this forward. So maybe talking to him and saying, hey, can you set up something for a discussion? If the CPC is really like, no, we'd really like to stick with it. Maybe he's the right person to pull in to get to
Okay.
coordinate that discussion.
I mean, I have very dumb logistical concerns here, which is we're trying to like keep issues up to date with CPC discussions. This is a CPC issue. And like, how do we, this sounds silly, but like, how do we handle this in a way that's not like making work? And also not, stupidly rigid, right? I'm trying to balance both here, right?
Yeah. I mean, you could maybe just put a comment. We could maybe put a comment in there just saying, we discussed this. We want to find some pathway forward and
Do
we'll,
they want to find a pathway forward? That works for me. And so what? Joe, you're gonna go take this conversation to the CPC, to the TSC?
I think I'm gonna talk to Claudio first. And then figure out what the path is from there. We can discuss it with the TSC, but yeah.
If you want a wing woman, I'm happy to join that call with Claudio.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and you can put that in the thing
Yeah.
there. Giuseppe will reach out to Overflow to discuss further.
And I just, as part of the rationale that was discussed, I think Chris made a point that we want to make their lives easier by like giving them room to do the stuff in the policy, in the moderation policy. I also think that we want to be clear about the fact that it's a lot easier for everyone in the foundation if we use the same text. Because that's also going to make the COC team's life easier and everyone's life easier in general, and also end users who don't have to, or contributors and participants who don't have to like wonder, is what I'm doing under like the amended Node.js code of conduct or like the foundations one, etc. So it's kind of like both things, right? All right, cool, wonderful, perfect. Moving on to the next issue, and that is, cleanup, README process, redesign. So this is issue 1345. We had a working session on that last week. And we discussed that the next, so the idea is, can we clean up the README to make it shorter so it's like clear what what all of the stuff that we do is, and then sort of like the points to files or folders where there's more information about specific topics. And we agreed in the working session that the next steps here would be to essentially like start a draft to show what it would look like, and both Chris and I give that a try, and they're listed in a comment in that issue here. You know what, I feel like it could be even valuable to share them both on screen. I can figure out how to do this properly. So that would be, and just to give people a sense of what we're talking about. So I think this is the version I did. I'm not even sure. No, that seems to be yours. Chris?
Yeah, that's the one.
Right.
This was just for slightly more context. We had talked about this and we were kind of like, well, it's the kind of thing we need to see what it looks like, in draft form to really have an opinion about whether we like it or not.
So what's interesting is Chris and I both did independent versions. Oh wait, I'm just clicking on my draft because I'm reading, so it's like, oh, it's my draft. And yeah, so I have more text and mine's like less clean. But anyway, you get the idea, right? Different structures, sort of everything from README. So yeah. I don't know if people want to discuss this now. I think it would be useful for people to have like, yay, this looks amazing, like let's continue, or we hate this, stop doing this right now, or we actually don't care. If like this is something you care about, like enjoy yourselves. Robin.
I think the only thing I would add, because we just have different terminology than a lot of other open source foundations. So we have collab spaces, not working groups. We have CPC instead of technical oversight committee. So do we actually want to say this is like a technical oversight committee and other foundations, or do we not want to say that? Because then people will go, oh, I get it, and I don't have to read through a whole bunch of other stuff.
I mean, should we rename things if we have to explain them?
No,
Right.
I'm having, sorry, Paula's hand just went up, but I'm having trouble connecting what context has been lost in this change from the current page, right? Because that's what you're saying, like the information that we've basically removed, or we really haven't removed, but like that would, I guess, live in the child pages that you would get to from here. Like, is it just a matter of bringing some of that stuff back?
Since, I was hired September 2019 after the merger, it was always the CPC during the bootstrapping period when the foundation was created. Working group collab space was different. That was sort of a mix, but this has always been the CPC, and people always forget what it is. And I go, well, it's kind of like our technical oversight committee. But I wasn't here for bootstrapping, Michael and Joe, maybe others who were.
like, what's the question? Should we change it to
How is it, yeah. I think
I mean, we
Toby
think of it-
actually opened the
No.
door to, should we rename it?
No, I was
TOC?
just saying, like, if we have to explain stuff all the time, then maybe we should rename it. But Chris's question was, I think, sort of like keep bringing us back on track of the exercise, and I think his question was, what prompted you to make the comment that you made about explaining those names in the change in the README? Because you said this as part of like
I don't think it was
looking
part
at
of
this.
I don't think it's ever
Oh.
been a part of the original README, but when I describe our foundation structure, which is all the time, this is what I usually have to say for people to understand. And then they really grasp more what this group's charge and mission is.
Okay, so can I summarize this in terms of if we're revamping the README, it might be time to also maybe slightly improve the wording of the intro or something like this, or like be a little more explicit about what the group does, because this has always been lacking. Does this feel like a new issue, or
I'd be curious what other people are thinking. I see Paula
gonna
and
say-
Chris. Mhm.
I was going to suggest that when Robin brought those points out about, well, if you're used to a TOC, maybe this is different. The two things that might be interesting to consider would be history, like how did this happen? What was the, I find the history of this foundation really fascinating, and it's not always clear. I did a quick search in the CPC. It'd be nice to link to that off the CPC, and then maybe we just need a very brief glossary. Like, if you're used to a TOC, this is how we do that here. Because I don't think we're going to have one common language across all the Linux foundations. So maybe we just need an easy place to translate.
What does TOC stand for?
Technical Oversight Committee.
yeah, it doesn't speak to me, just for what it's worth, right?
Yeah, but for me, I mean, you all are the decision makers, whether a project comes in or out. I mean, that's more than just collaboration. You do have that authority, from a foundation perspective on the technology direction, really.
Chris.
So I do think this is kind of its own issue that would deserve its own sort of consideration space, but I would certainly +1 exploring the idea of renaming the CPC, and that's because the scope of the group, I think, is larger than that name encompasses. It's not just the projects right now, there's the collaboration spaces. And frankly, I thought I knew what the CPC was. I think I did, going back in time. But, I got here by way of the collaboration spaces. And I never really thought to come to the CPC because I was not a direct, like contributor or collaborator on any of the projects themselves. And then, I forget, it was in the standards meeting or security meeting, and Toby said, oh, we're going to be talking about this thing at the CPC, you should come to the meeting. And that's how I started coming to these meetings. But at first I didn't, because I was like, well, I'm not.
What did I do?
But I never really crossed my mind, because I'm like, oh, I'm not like a node collaborator or anything. Like, I'm not gonna, meeting. So yeah, I don't know. Those are just some thoughts. I think the CPC does more than what the name kind of alludes to.
I was going to make a joke that you weren't sure about what the CPC exactly did, and then very recently you read the README throughout and were like entirely surprised by its content. But anyway, sorry. So do we want to open an issue about this? This feels like the massive can of worm that I don't think we should open an issue about, frankly. But I'm going to put it that way. If someone feels strongly enough about renaming the CPC or doing a glossary or explaining more precisely what the CPC is, would they please very kindly open an issue? Going back to the issue that we're talking about right now. How do people feel about redesigning the README so that it is a lot shorter?
I looked at both of them. I like yours, Toby, just because it has something in the text there. There's like a little bit to go on. You can kind of scan it and figure out what's going on and where you might need to go. Whereas I think Chris's is much more concise and more like the TC39 one, but I think it's lacking some context that might be helpful for new folks.
Eat that, Chris.
No,
It was no, it's a fair, I think it was a fair point. I did not intend that to be the final product. Some of those I agree that some things require not just the titles, but if the title, when I say title, I mean like what there is the link I'm calling the title. If it's not very self-explanatory, I agree there should be a description of it. But we should also be very ruthless in being as succinct as possible in that description so that because every additional word and character that you add reduces, it kind of goes away from the goal, which is to pare it down. But the main thing that I would suggest looking at is just the general structure of it, the ordering of it, the nesting of things and categories. That's the big takeaway. But yes,
Yeah,
I agree that the end thing, if we are doing it, will include more words for sure.
So just, unofficial, if we were to propose renaming it to a technical oversight committee, how would anybody be like adamantly opposed to that?
I thought we had moved away from this question.
I'm just starting to think again. I think it'd just be an easier way for people to discover us as
I mean,
well.
I think
Yeah,
They'll always forget what this group is called.
the issue with that, I think, is that technical is a misnomer there. Like the Nodes TSC does many more things than just technical decisions.
Mhm.
And like, so I think something oversight committee is fine. I don't mind renaming it personally, but we hardly ever do technical decisions in the CPC. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think that would be very
Good point.
confusing.
Good point.
Chris,
Mhm.
Oh, I just don't like the word oversight. Is my only thing there. It sounds
Okay, there's 2 out
like-
of 3 words, so
yeah. I mean, just the word just sounds authoritarian.
yeah. It's just more again intuitive if you live in the open source world, what that group does, but maybe not.
so
I'm not sure it would for enough of it. My personal one is like, I don't think it'd be worth the trouble changing. The amount of effort and bike setting and all that.
I'm very concerned about the amount of work this would actually require. It's like just like fixing stuff all over like you literally have to fix every charter of every project.
Right.
I've
And
seen you take on bigger projects, Toby. I think you could do
no, no, seriously, it sounds like a massive amount of work for like yeah, find and replace across like multiple organizations that you don't have commit rights on. It's going to be great.
I think it would have to
And
be really compelling too. Like, I don't know what would be
yeah,
good enough to warrant the change. But if somebody comes up with something good enough, I'd be open to it.
and just Robin, I understand where you're coming from, but TOCs are very specific to DLF, and other organizations don't call their similar-ish things the same way. And so depending on sort of like your, the overlap of your community, like
Okay.
yeah, it doesn't, I mean, to me, like that's not more clear than like the CPC is.
Okay. I think too, when people are looking for all of the project information, going to the cross project council and all of the great data underneath, that's not the intuitive door.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But that's more about maybe something we should look at into the website than
Well, I kind of like that, Chris. Steering committee, something. Yep.
yeah, I don't like names that are getting slightly better. So I'm more concerned about the workload that implies. So stop it.
Do we have a foundation repo? Like, what if some of the stuff was in like its own sort of repo for informational purposes? You know what I mean?
I'm confused. What did you just say, Joe?
Well, like going to the Cross Project Council repo to look at projects, I get that like that's not intuitive, but what if we had a foundation repo in the OpenJS Foundation that was sort of, I mean, I realize a website should probably satisfy a lot of what you might find there, but you know, GitHub people do GitHub things.
So I
Just
mean,
a
we could create such a repository and like just link it to the right folder in the CPC. That could work. I just want to be super careful not to start mixing. Oh, very funny, Chris. Uh, the last time we moved something out of the CPC, then we forgot about its existence for a while, and so I just want to be careful not to repeat this again.
yeah. But
I mean, at the risk of like being benevolent, whatever you usually tie to that word, should we get back to the issue at hand and the agenda, or do we all want to continue on that tangent? I mean, I don't mind; it's fun.
what were we talking about?
Like shedding the council name. To be fair, I am very sympathetic to Toby. Toby's kind of, he's right to sort of talk us down from this adventure because he's 100% right on the other side of the coin here that this would involve. So, and we might be careful what we wish for here and biting off more than we can chew. So.
Well, I do usually say we're sort of JavaScripty, so we have our own names for things. So this is this and that they do that. So we'll just keep
It's
going with
cultural.
that.
Great argument.
Yeah.
Our JavaScripty thing. Yeah.
No, I mean seriously, it was so long just to like merge like collab spaces and working groups, and that's a really tiny thing. Do you know like in how many places we need to like fix because we need to rename every GitHub names, probably every GitHub URLs, probably.
Oh wow.
Or that would be a conversation.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's very funny also. All right, let's get back to this issue. So this is issue seriously 1345. Okay. Are people more sort of like thumbs up, I don't care, or thumbs down about sort of exploring a bit more specifically a much shorter README? God, like no enthusiasm for this at all.
No,
All
no,
right,
I'm
so
happy. You know, if you want to, if you come up with something that's better, then sure.
Yeah.
all right.
I'm kind of along the same lines. Like if we agree to some README reorganization and there's some corresponding alignment, sounds great.
Okay, I'm saying like okay-ish to clean up.
Yeah.
All right. Depending on what we have for working session, Chris, would you be, oh, sorry, please. I'm wondering, Chris, if you'd be interested to sort of try to mix our two proposals in the next working session.
Yeah, I mean, if there's not something that's sort of higher priority or important to folks, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I just want to ask with regards to the READMEs that people are sort of lukewarmly positive on. Is there anything, so knowing that like they're drafts and they're not complete, either one, but what is there is basically what the thing will be. You know, there might be more or less words here and there. There might be like this thing might be higher than the other thing, but like generally speaking, what you're seeing there is what the end result looks like. So to that end, when we were initially talking about this, some people were concerned about maybe some of the information being kind of hidden away, like that they wanted it to remain on the README front and center. Does anybody still feel that way? Is there anything particularly content-wise that folks really find glaring that would no longer be on the README page?
Like Chris, and like nobody but you and I care about this. I think this is quite clear at this point.
All right.
It's okay. We'll have fun.
Maybe it was
next
you
week.
that
Just
mentioned those
clear it up.
concerns. I don't remember who it was.
No, it was Joe.
It was Joe.
I think.
What did I do?
See, okay, let's.
Never mind.
Jesus,
Nothing.
Yeah, it's just because like a bunch of you had like a holiday, like a long weekend, and you're like,
No.
is this what's going on? Like, I'm so confused.
All right, we're just gonna do whatever we want, and then nobody can complain about it later.
It's great. 1307, archive the hospital run project. I mean, we can't have like 9 issues and not get through them in like 55 minutes. This is like shameful.
Hospital Run,
Ben.
yes. We sorted GitHub. The last thing is Open Collective, which I'm still trying to chase down.
All right.
And was there something on NPM? I think Jordan uncovered like a NPM package that had like 0 downloads or something for Hospital Run. There was something
It turns out there's actually a number of packages. Most of them don't have downloads. But like they should be, the ownership of them should be claimed just for cleanliness. I don't think that needs to block any other the rest of the archival. I think it's just something we need to make sure we don't forget.
Yeah. Ideally with deprecating them, but that's not really totally necessary just because nobody's using them really. But it's not a you know, big target for a supply chain attack, but yeah.
So concretely, what are the action items here?
I think there's 2: hunting down access to NPM and then hunting down access to Open Collective.
Okay. NPM packages. For the NPM access, if we're talking about packages that are use the name but aren't owned by any of the maintainers, like this is different.
No, that was the case of some things, but some are owned by the maintainers.
Right, but are there both in that case? I mean, I'm sorry to try to be specific, but
well, there's nothing we can do for the ones that some random person just decided to publish to NPM. Right.
I mean, arguably on the ones that are using the hospital run brand, something could be done. I'm just wondering if this is some.
I think only if they were purporting to be like I think it would only be a clear-cut case if they were purporting to like be an official project, but if it's just got the name, I don't think it's even worth asking
I'm just wondering if I'm just asking the question, like, so
I think what needs to be done is someone needs to do the research, the full research, and document it. That I only spent 20 seconds doing last meeting, and then we can make a judgment call based on which packages we're unable to get control of.
And we could send a courtesy letter. I don't always have to have an attorney engaged to do those things. So.
Cool. All right. Document the COC team selection process. Well, that we have to put in writing at some point. So this is just waiting on a pull request essentially. Is there something someone wants to do in working session? Chris?
I'm not volunteering for that, but I just raised my hand. I was just curious in terms of the selection process. Are there like terms for this? Is it like a year like the other stuff? Is it going on the
Yeah, it's a
calendar
year.
and all that?
Yeah,
Okay. Has the calendar been updated and stuff like that?
and it has not.
Okay.
We can add it to our election calendar. Mhm.
Ben,
I saw a little head
Mhm.
nod from Ben.
yeah, yeah, very cool. Yeah, it was subtle, but I just wanted to get it on the record. I'm joking. All right. Cool. Code of Conduct Plan of Action 1122. I think most of this is done pending the COC team selection process and moving to 2.1, I think. Again, this is just essentially waiting on am I right about this? We have restarted the nomination process. Oh, there's a few items still in there. Okay, it feels like we should do a working session on the code of conduct stuff at some point. But unless someone wants to drive this, I literally have no energy to focus on the code of conduct work at this point. I'm just saying.
That's just that's the kind of remaining master issue that we just need to go through.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I can try to look at it. I mean, I think it's a checklist, so we just need to make sure we didn't miss anything and go through it.
I mean, I've just checked one that we have finished. Essentially moved to contributor covenant 2.1. Open and pull requests against the onboarding checklist. Move the COC to a GitHub repo, to a .github repo. This was discussed at some point. Provide clear instructions on how onboarding projects should adopt the COC. So this is working session material at some point. Yes, and we have 1 minute left for the last issue, and then we talk about and the last issue is the IP policy license exemption from loopback. And this is Joe. Do you have an update on this?
Oh no, I don't. I forgot.
Okay, wonderful. That's perfect. And now we can move to the private session. We managed to do this on time. Thank you very much, everyone who attended this wild and creative cross-project council session. And we will see you in 2 weeks. And yeah, thank you very much.